Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. Jai Sparika Sisi Guru Guranga Radha Sham Sundar Giridhari Ju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Srila Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhagya Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Rathayatra Maha Mahotsav Ki Jai. Sri Gundicha Marjan Ki Jai. Harinama Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So, sorry about that. I didn't realize I'd pressed the start button, and so it's just a picture of me looking at the top of my head. So today is in Purushottam Dham, Jagannath Puri, is the festival of Gundicha Marjan, and so all the devotees all over the world, the idea is that on this day they spend their time to clean the temple very nicely, as Mahaprabhu taught, and this way clean the heart. So we'll read something from Chaitanya Charitamrita to remember these pastimes, and also something commentary by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, which is very illuminating on that. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 12, beginning on text 72. I shall just read the English, otherwise it'll become very long. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jai Gurudev. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first of all called for Kashi Mishra, then for the superintendent of the temple, and then for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. When these three people came before the Lord, he begged them to wash the temple known as Gundicha. So when it says requested them to wash the temple, it doesn't mean that he asked them to wash the temple. He was asking if he and the devotees could wash the temple. Upon hearing the Lord's request to wash the Gundicha temple, the Pandicha, the superintendent of the temple, said, "My dear sir, we are all your servants. Whatever you desire is our duty to perform. The king gave a special order for me to do without delay whatever your lordship orders. My dear Lord, washing the temple is not service befitting you. Nonetheless, if you wish to do so, it is to be accepted as one of your pastimes. To wash the temple, you need many water pots and brooms. Therefore, order me. I can immediately bring all these things to you." As soon as the superintendent understood the desire of the Lord, he immediately delivered 100 new water pots and 100 brooms for sweeping the temple. The next day, early in the morning, the Lord took his personal associates with him, and with his own hand smeared sandalwood pulp on their bodies. He then gave each devotee a broom with his own hand, and taking all of them personally with him, the Lord went to Gundicha. In this way, the Lord and his associates went to cleanse the Gundicha temple. At first, they cleansed the temple with the brooms. The Lord cleansed everything inside the temple very nicely, including the ceiling. He then took up the sitting place, the Singhasan, and cleansed it and again put it in its original place. Thus the Lord and his companions cleansed and swept all the temple's buildings, big and small. and finally cleansed the area between the temple and the meeting place. Indeed, hundreds of devotees were engaged in cleansing all around the temple, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally carrying out the operation just to instruct us. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed and cleansed the temple in great jubilation, chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna all the time. Similarly, all the devotees were also chanting and at the same time performing their respective duties. The entire beautiful body of the Lord was covered with dust and dirt. In this way, it became transcendently beautiful. At times, when cleansing the temple, the Lord shed tears, and in some places he even cleansed with those tears. After this, the place where the deity's food was kept, the Bhoga Mandir, was cleansed. Then the yard was cleansed, and then all the residential quarters, one after the other. Thank you. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu collected all the straw, dust, and grains of sand in one place, he gathered it all in his cloth and threw it outside. Following the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees in great jubilation began to gather straws and dust with their own cloths and throw them outside the temple. The Lord then told the devotees, "I can tell how much you have labored and how well you have cleansed the temple." Thank you. Simply by seeing all the straw and dust you have collected outside. Even though all the devotees collected dirt in one pile, the dirt collected by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was much greater. After the inside of the temple was cleansed, the Lord again allotted areas for the devotees to cleanse. The Lord then ordered everyone to cleanse the inside of the temple very perfectly by taking finer dust, straws, and grains of sand and throwing them outside. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas cleansed the temple for the second time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see the cleansing work. While the temple was being swept, about 100 men stood ready with filled water pots, and they simply awaited the Lord's order to throw them. As soon as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu called for water, all the men immediately brought the 100 water pots, which were completely filled, and delivered them before the Lord. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu first washed the main temple, and then thoroughly washed the ceiling, the walls, the floor, the sitting place, and everything else within the room. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself and his devotees began to throw water onto the ceiling. When this water fell, it washed the walls and floor. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to wash the sitting place of Lord Jagannath with his own hands, and all the devotees began to bring water to the Lord. All the devotees within the temple began to wash. Each one had a broom in his hand, and in this way they cleansed the temple of the Lord. Someone brought water to pour into the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and someone poured water on his lotus feet. The water that fell from his lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was drunk by someone who hid himself. Someone else begged for that water, and another person was giving that water in charity. After the room was washed, the water was let out through an outlet, and it then flowed and filled the yard outside. The Lord mopped the rooms with his own clothes, and he polished the throne with them also. In this way, all the rooms were cleansed with 100 water pots. After the room had been cleansed, the minds of the devotees were as clear as the rooms. When the temple was cleansed, it was purified, cool, and pleasing, just as if the Lord's own pure mind had appeared. Since hundreds of men were engaged in bringing water from the lake, there was no place to stand on the banks. Consequently, someone began to draw water from a well. Hundreds of devotees bought water in the pots, and hundreds took the empty pots away to fill them up again. With the exception of Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya, Swarup Damodar, Brahmananda Bharati, and Paramananda Puri, everyone was engaged in filling the water pots and bringing them there. Many of the water pots were broken when people collided with one another, and hundreds of men had to bring new water pots to fill. Some people were filling the pots, and others were washing the rooms, but everyone was engaged in chanting the holy name of Krishna and Hari. One person begged for a water pot by chanting the holy names, Krishna, Krishna, and another delivered a pot while chanting Krishna, Krishna. Whenever anyone had to speak, he did so by uttering the holy name of Krishna. Consequently, the holy name of Krishna became an indication for everyone who wanted something. As Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was vibrating the holy name of Krishna in ecstatic love, he himself was performing the work of hundreds of men. It appeared as though Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were cleansing and washing with 100 hands. He approached everyone just to teach them how to work. When he saw someone doing nicely, the Lord praised him. But if he saw that someone was not working to his satisfaction, he immediately chastised that person, but not bearing him any grudge. The Lord would say, "You have done well. Please teach this to others, so they may act in the same way." As soon as they heard Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say this, everyone became ashamed. Thus they began to work with great attention. They washed the Jagamohan area, and then the place where food was kept. All other places were also washed. In this way, the meeting place was washed, the entire yard, the raised sitting places, the kitchen, and every other room. Thus, all places around the temple were thoroughly washed within and without. After everything was thoroughly washed, a Vaishnava from Bengal, who was very intelligent and simple, came and poured water on the lotus feet of the Lord. That Gaudiya Vaishnava then took the water and drank it himself. Seeing that, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt a little unhappy and was also outwardly angry. Although the Lord was certainly satisfied with him, he became angry externally in order to establish the etiquette of religious principles. The Lord then called for Swarup Damodar and told him, "Just see the behavior of your Bengali Vaishnava. This person from Bengal has washed my feet within the temple of the personality of Godhead. Not only that, but he's drunk the water himself. I now do not know what my destination is because of this offense. Indeed, your Bengali Vaishnava has greatly implicated me." At this point, Swarup Damodar Goswami caught the Gaudiya Vaishnava by the neck and, giving him a little push, ejected him from the Gundicha Puri temple and made him stay outside. After Swarup Damodar Goswami returned within the temple, he requested Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to excuse that innocent person. After this incident, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. He then asked all of the devotees to sit down in 2 lines on both sides. The Lord then personally sat down in the middle and picked up all kinds of straw, grains of sand, and dirty things. While Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was picking up the straws and grains of sand, he said, "I shall gather everyone's collections, and I shall ask whoever has collected less than all the others to pay a fine of sweet cakes and sweet rice." In this way, all the quarters of the Gundicha temple were completely cleansed and cleared. All quarters were cool and spotless, like one's cleansed and pacified mind. When the water from the different rooms was finally let out through the halls, it appeared as if new rivers were rushing out to meet the waters of the ocean. Outside the gateway of the temple, all the roads were also cleansed, and no one could tell exactly how this was done. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also cleansed the Nrsimha temple inside and outside. Finally, he rested a few minutes and then began dancing. All around Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the devotees performed congregational chanting. The Lord, just like a maddened lion, danced in the middle. As usual, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced, there were perspiration, trembling, fading, tears, jubilation, and roaring. Indeed, the tears from his eyes washed his body and those before him. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu washed the bodies of all the devotees with the tears from his eyes. The tears poured like rain in the month of Shravan. The sky was filled with the great and loud chanting of Sankirtan, and the earth shook from the jumping and dancing of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always liked the loud chanting of Swarup Damodar. Therefore, when Swarup Damodar sang, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and jumped high in jubilation. The Lord thus chanted and danced for some time. Finally, understanding the circumstances, he stopped. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then ordered Sri Gopal, the son of Advaita Acharya, to dance. While dancing in ecstatic love, Sri Gopal fainted and fell to the ground unconscious. When Sri Gopal fainted, Advaita Acharya hastily took him upon his lap. Seeing that he was not breathing, he became very agitated. Advaita Acharya and others began to chant the holy name of Lord Nrsimha and sprinkle water. The roaring of the chant was so great that it seemed to shake the entire universe. When the boy did not regain consciousness after some time, Advaita Acharya and the other devotees all began to cry. Then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu placed his hand on the chest of Sri Gopal and said loudly, "Gopal, stand up." As soon as Gopal heard the voice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he immediately came to his senses. All the devotees then began to dance, chanting the holy name of Hari. This incident has been described in detail by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Therefore, I have described it only in brief. After taking rest, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees departed to take their baths. After bathing, the Lord stood on the bank of the lake and put on dry garments. After offering obeisance to Lord Nrsimhadev, whose temple was nearby, the Lord entered a garden. In the garden, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sat down with the other devotees. Baninath Roy then came and bought all kinds of Mahaprasad. Both Kashi Mishra and Tulasi, the superintendent of the temple, bought as much prasad as 500 men could eat. Seeing the large quantity of prasad, which consisted of rice, cakes, sweet rice, and a variety of vegetables, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very satisfied. Among the devotees present with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were Paramananda Puri, Brahmananda Bharati, Advaita Acharya, and Nityananda Prabhu. Acharya Ratna, Acharya Nidhi, Sribas Thakur, Gadadhar Pandit, Shankar, Nandanacharya, Raghava Pandit, and Barkeshwara were also present. Receiving the permission of the Lord, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sat down. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the devotees sat on raised wooden seats. In this way, all the devotees sat down to take their lunch in consecutive lines, one beside the other. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was repeatedly calling, "Haridas, Haridas!" And at that time, Haridas, standing at a distance, spoke as follows. Haridas Thakur said, "Let Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu take his lunch with the devotees. Since I am abominable, I cannot sit down among you. Govinda will give me prasad later outside the door." Understanding his mind, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not call him again. Swarup Damodar Goswami, Jagadananda Pandit, Damodar Pandit, Kashishwara, Gopinath, Vaninath, and Shankar distributed prasad, and the devotees chanted the holy names at intervals. Lord Sri Krishna had previously taken his lunch in the forest, and that very pastime was remembered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just by remembering the pastime of Lord Sri Krishna, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was agitated with ecstatic love. However, considering the time and circumstance, he remained somewhat patient. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "You can give me the ordinary vegetable known as lafra vyanjan, and you may deliver to all the devotees better preparations like cakes, sweet rice, and amrita gutika." Since Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is omniscient, he knew what type of preparation each person liked. He therefore had Swarup Damodar deliver these preparations to their full satisfaction. Jagadananda Pandit went to distribute prasad, and suddenly he placed all the first-class preparations on the plate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. When such nice prasad was put on the plate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord was outwardly very angry. Nonetheless, when the preparations were placed on his plate, sometimes by tricks and sometimes by force, the Lord was satisfied. When the food was thus delivered, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at it for some time. Being afraid of Jagadananda, he finally ate something. The Lord knew that if he didn't eat the food offered by Jagadananda, that Jagadananda would certainly fast. Being afraid of this, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ate some of the prasad he offered. Swarup Damodar Goswami then bought some excellent sweets, and standing before the Lord, offered them to him. Swarup Damodar Goswami said, "Just take a little of this Mahaprasad, and see how it is that Lord Jagannath has accepted it." Upon saying this, Swarup Damodar Goswami placed some food before the Lord, and the Lord, out of affection, ate it. Swarup Damodar and Jagadananda again and again offered the Lord some food. Thus they behaved affectionately with the Lord, and this was very, very uncommon. The Lord made Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya sit on his left side, and when Sarvabhauma saw the behavior of Swarup Damodar and Jagadananda, he smiled. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to offer Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya first-class prasad. Therefore, out of affection, he had the servers put first-class prasad on his plate again and again. Gopinathacharya also bought first-class prasad and offered it to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya while speaking sweet words. After serving Bhattacharya with first-class prasad, Gopinathacharya said, "Just imagine what Bhattacharya's previous mundane behavior must have been. Just consider how at present he is enjoying transcendental bliss." Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, "I was simply a less intelligent logician. However, by your grace I have received this opulence of perfection." But for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, who is so merciful, he has converted a crow into a Garuda. Who could be so merciful? In the association of the jackals of logic, I simply continued to bark a resounding Behu, Behu. Now from the same mouth I am chanting the holy name, Krishna and Hari. Whereas I associated with the disciples of logic, all non-devotees, I am now merged in the waves of the nectarian ocean of the association of devotees. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, "From your previous birth you have been in Krishna consciousness. Thus you love Krishna so much that simply by your association we are all developing Krishna consciousness. Thus there is no one within these three worlds save for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is always so willing to increase the glories of the devotees and give them satisfaction." Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then took all the remnants of food offered to Jagannath, such as cakes and sweet rice, and distributed them to all the other devotees, calling them individually. Sri Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu sat side by side, and when prasad was being distributed, they both engaged in a type of mock fighting. First, Advaita Acharya said, "I am sitting in line with an unknown mendicant, and because I'm eating with him, I do not know what kind of destination is awaiting me. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the renounced order of life. Consequently, he doesn't recognize discrepancies. As a matter of fact, a sannyasi is not affected by eating food from anywhere and everywhere. According to the Shastra, there is no discrepancy in a sannyasi's eating at another's house. However, for a householder Brahmin, this kind of eating is faulty. It is not proper for householders to dine with those whose previous birth, family, character, and behavior are unknown." Nityananda Prabhu immediately refuted Advaita Acharya, saying, "You're a teacher of impersonal monism, and the monistic conclusion is a great hindrance to progressive, pure devotional service. One who participates in your impersonal monistic philosophy does not accept anything but the one Brahman." Nityananda Prabhu continued, "You are such a monist, and now I am eating beside you. I don't know how my mind will be affected in this way." Thus they both went on talking and praising one another, although their praise appeared negative, for it appeared as if they exchanged ill names. Therefore, calling all the Vaishnavas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu distributed Mahaprasad as if sprinkling nectar. At that time, the mock fight between Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu became more and more delicious. After taking their lunch, all the Vaishnavas stood up and chanted the holy name of Hari, and the resounding noise filled all the upper and lower planetary systems. After this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered flower garlands and sandalwood pulp to all his devoted personal associates. The 7 persons headed by Swarup Damodar, who were engaged in distributing prasad to others, then took their meals within the room. Govinda saved some remnants of food left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and kept them carefully. Later, one portion of these remnants was delivered to Haridas Thakur. The remnants of food left by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were later distributed among devotees who begged for them, and finally Govinda personally took the last remnants. The fully independent Supreme Personality of Godhead performs various types of pastimes. The pastime of washing and cleansing the Gundicha temple is but one of them. The next day marked the performance of the festival of Netrotsava, and this grand festival was the life and soul of all the devotees. Everyone was unhappy for a fortnight because they could not see the deity of Lord Jagannath. Upon seeing the Lord at the festival, the devotees were very happy. On this occasion, greatly happy, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took all the devotees with him and visited the Lord in the temple. So, that's tomorrow. So we've read about that, but this is known as Gundicha Marjan Leela Rahasya, the explanation of Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur about the meaning, the you can say secret meaning of the pastimes of cleansing the Gundicha temple. This is from his commentary on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this part that we just read. Through this pastime, Jagat Guru Sriman Mahaprabhu is teaching that if a fortunate soul desires to sit Krishna on the altar of their heart, then they should first of all clean their heart of all contamination. Making the heart spotlessly clean, peaceful, and resplendent with devotion is mandatory. If any thorny bushes, weeds, dust, or sand, in other words, anarthas, remain within the field of the heart, then the Lord, the ultimate recipient of all service, cannot be seated therein. Contamination and litter within the heart means anyabilas, extraneous desires, karma, worldly action, jnana, speculative knowledge, yoga, and so on. Srila Rupa Goswami has said, Anya bilasita shunyam jnana karmadi anavritam anukulyena krishna nushilanam bhaktir uttama. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Wherever the soul's eternal natural propensity for devotion has been covered by desires unrelated to devotion, speculative knowledge, worldly action, yoga, asceticism, or any mentality that is unfavorable to devotion, pure devotion is therefore not present. And without pure devotion, which is by nature purely spiritual, Krishna does not appear. Extraneous desire. Quote, as long as I remain in this world, I shall gratify my senses exclusively. This sort of base desire, like a thorny branch, lacerates the pure soul's tender propensity for exclusive devotion, or kevala bhakti. Worldly action. Through piety, sacrifice, charity, and austerity, I shall enjoy the pleasures of this world and the higher planes like Swarga. Such selfish action is like dust. In the whirlwind of the cycle of karma, heaps of this dust, that is, desires, cover the spotless and clear mirror of our hearts. Desire to perform both good and bad actions, like countless heaps of dust, have contaminated the hearts of souls who are averse to the Lord from numerous births, and thus the desire for worldly activity has not left these souls' hearts. Souls that are averse to the Lord think, it seems that through action the thorns present within action can be removed. But this is a misconception. Those who are convinced by it simply cheat themselves. As an elephant smears its body with dirt again after you bathe it, so desire for worldly action is not dispelled by performing worldly actions. Only through pure devotion are all of the soul's difficulties dispelled. It is then that the altar of the soul's pure heart becomes a suitable place for the Lord to rest. This is why a devotee poet has sung, Bhakterir hridaye sada govindrera vishrama. The heart of the devotee is always the resting place for Govinda. Monistic yoga and endeavors for speculative knowledge are just like sand. Through them, what to speak of the Lord's service or satisfaction, an endeavor is made to lacerate the Lord's body with a spear. Although at the beginning of the search for non-differentiated Brahma, seekers of liberation may accept the Lord's name, form, and so on to a certain extent, such seekers do not accept the independent existence of the Lord's name, form, and so on at the time of their liberation or identification with Brahma. The Lord therefore does not appear within the heart of such unfortunate souls, who proudly consider themselves to be liberated when in fact they are not. It is for this reason that Sri Gaurasundar did not keep straw, dust, sand, and other forms of litter even within the boundary of the Lord's temple compound, but rather threw them outside using his own outer cloth, lest with the help of a storm all such rubbish would again enter the temple. Often, even when worldly action, speculative knowledge, and so on have been dispelled, subtle forms of contamination remain within the heart. These can be compared to kutinati, pratistasha, jiva hingsa, nishidhacha, labha, puja, and so on. Kutinati means duplicity. Pratistasya means desire for worldly honor. May the ignorant call me a great soul on account of my solitary worship and imposture. Pratishta means desire to be recognized as a devotee or an avatar by showing a perverted reflection of divine emotion, such as artificial symptoms of ecstasy within one's hard heart, in order to fulfill one's selfish desire for worldly enjoyment. Jivahingsa means hesitation to or miserliness about preaching pure devotion, indulging mayavadis, materialists and enjoyers, and speaking so as to keep the attention of such persons. Labha and puja means living off the Lord's name, mantras, deities, or the Bhagavat in the name of religion, cheating the ignorant and accumulating wealth, honor, and so on. Nishidhacha means associating with the opposite sex and non-devotees of Krishna, such as materialists, speculators, and enjoyers. Sri Gaurasundar first swept out large heaps of all such sand, straw, dust, and so on, that had accumulated over many days, and then, after cleaning every area within the temple a second time with brooms and water, began scrubbing the temple and the Lord's altar with the dry cloth he was wearing, so that no subtle blemishes would remain anywhere. After all of the sweeping, cleaning, scrubbing, and so on, there was no trace of any dust particles or even subtle blemishes within the temple, which was not only spotlessly clean, but also soothingly cool. That is, the practitioner's heart had become free from the searing pain comparable to being a desert scorched by the sun, free from the flames of the fire of the three miseries produced by desire to enjoy the mundane, adhyatmic tap, miseries caused by the body and mind, adibhotik tap, miseries caused by others, and adidaibik tap, miseries caused by the gods. In fact, when desires for enjoyment and liberation, all extraneous desires, worldly endeavors, speculative knowledge, yoga, and so on, are dispelled from the practitioner's heart, and the soul's propensity for pure devotion manifests, such peace and soothing coolness appear naturally. Ignorant souls do not understand that often, even when all selfish desires have been dispelled, a subtle blemish still remains within an unknown nook or corner of the heart. The desire for liberation. What to speak of the impersonalist desire for Sayuja Mukti, the liberation of merging into Brahman? Sriman Mahaprabhu scrubbed away with his own cloth even the subtle blemishes of desire for the four other forms of liberation. Salokya, residing in the Lord's abode. Samipya, being in the Lord's presence. Sharupya, having a form like the Lord's. And Sharsti, having opulence like the Lord's. In this way, adopting the mentality of a soul, for the welfare of all souls, Sri Gaurasundar, as a Jagat Guru, personally taught how a practitioner should, with great enthusiasm, while loudly chanting Krishna's name, clean their heart for Krishna's sake, in order to make their heart a place for the pleasure pastimes of the autocrat Sri Krishna, and be able to lovingly gratify Krishna's senses. Yadya panyanya bhaktihi kalo kartabhya tada kirtanakya bhakti samyoge naiva. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. Although the other 8 practices of devotion should be performed during Kali Yuga, they should be performed in conjunction with kirtan. Sriman Mahaprabhu came over to every devotee took hold of their hands and taught them how to clean the temple. He praised the devotees who were serving well, and as the Lord adorned with the heart of she who is who is the personification of the fulfillment of Krishna's desires, Sri Radha, he benevolently chastised those whose service was not up to the standard, took hold of their hands, and taught them the proper way to serve Krishna. Not only that, he also instructed and inspired the pure-hearted devotees who were dedicated to the Absolute and proficient in serving according to his teachings, to perform the work of an acharya for souls averse to the Lord. Tumi bhala korijacha shikhaha anyere, e mata bhala karma seho yena kore. To devotees whose cleansing he approved of, the Lord said, "You have done well. Teach this to others, so that they also perform well in this way." Furthermore, the Lord taught that one will become dear to the Lord to the extent that one can remove impurities from one's heart and keep it clean. And he prescribed the peaceful practice of service to Hari Guru Vaishnava for those who have not yet completed the process of anartha nivritti, the purging of evils. Oh, that's it. I think. Now this is an English translation of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's commentary on this Leela from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that is today. So the Lord is going from Jagannath Puri to the Gundicha at the time of the Ratha Jatra. So before that, Mahaprabhu Chaitanya Dev, with all of his devotees, went to the Gundicha and cleaned that place. It is very extraordinary pastime of the Lord. And remembering that, all the devotees on this day, they use their time and their energy for cleaning and cleansing the temple of the Lord. And this way their own hearts and minds become cleansed. As you can say, the temple is the outward expression of the purified heart of the Vaishnava. So it is not just a physical thing, but is actually purifying one's own consciousness. And it is noteworthy that while the devotees were cleansing that temple with their own hands, whenever they required anything for that cleaning, they asked the other devotee just by indicating and saying, "Krishna, Krishna," and then that devotee would supply them with a pot of water or broom or whatever it was and say, "Krishna, Krishna," this way. So all the time the devotees were chanting the holy name of the Lord. And Mahaprabhu was collecting all the dirt and dust in his uttarya, his sannyas begging, what do you call that? Like a cape. And collecting all of that and taking it and making a pile outside. And all the other devotees following that, they're making a pile. But all of the devotees piling the dirt in one area, and Mahaprabhu's pile in another area. And although there were hundreds of devotees, even their pile put together did not equal the pile of Mahaprabhu's, that Mahaprabhu had removed from there. So it became, like a great festival. And the devotees were washing, they were taking water, and some of them naughtily, in a naughty way, they would pour water over Mahaprabhu's feet, and then another devotee would catch that water and drink it, and then another one would say, "Give me some of that," and this way. But Mahaprabhu became, he was satisfied, but at least externally, he became angry with those devotees for doing this. And chastised one devotee who did that, like, openly in front of him. Chastised him to Swarup Damodar, and Swarup Damodar took that devotee and threw him out in a gentle way, and then asked Mahaprabhu, "Oh, please forgive him." But inwardly, Mahaprabhu was happy, very happy, pleased by that. But generally, the devotees don't like that. Actually, one time, on Srila Govinda Maharaj's first tour, when the first time that he came here to London, it was before we had this house. We had a rented house in Gladding Road, not far from here. Anyhow, one of our godbrothers, he invited Srila Govinda Maharaj to his house while he was here, and so we went there to meet Gurudev, and his house was in Canning Town, so not very far away. And then Gurudev came, and while he was sitting, he was drinking some hot drink, and then that devotee he brought in a bowl and a jug of hot water, and what he wants, and many different things. He wants to wash Gurudev's feet, but Gurudev wouldn't let him do that. In fact, he became very angry with him, and he kept insisting, "No, I want to. You're my Gurudev." Kept insisting, and finally Gurudev told, if you don't stop this, I'm going to leave here immediately. And so he relented and left. And really, it wasn't just like a show of humility. It was genuinely Gurudev felt himself unfit for such a thing. That devotee, although he's his disciple, he's also his godbrother, because he's the disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj, but second initiation he took from Srila Govinda Maharaj. But anyway, Gurudev considering us, the disciples of Sridhar Maharaj, as godbrothers, but we are not considering ourselves like that. We are considering he is our Guru. But anyway, Gurudev did not like that, and also we saw many times that Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he didn't like that either. And in fact, many times when devotees would take Harinam from Srila Sridhar Maharaj, after receiving their beads, they would go, do some Guru Puja, and they would go to touch Guru Maharaj's feet, and Guru Maharaj would become very disturbed by that. And sometimes he would say, "Oh, it is not such an easy thing to touch the feet of Gurudev, not just a physical thing." Sometimes he would say like that, and sometimes he would say to them, "Now wash your hands before you touch your japamala." Anyhow, so this cleansing of the Gundicha temple, the Gundicha Marja, happens just before the Rath Yatra. And Rath Yatra day, this year they say that it'll be like a private, or just the pandas will be involved, not the public. But I don't know how they'll be able to police such a thing, because generally, like thousands, maybe millions of people go for that festival from all over India. And last year they told, because of the COVID, that it wasn't going to happen. So I guess that many people who were planning to go didn't go because of that. But it did happen by the will of Lord Jagannath. He did come out of the temple and did go on his car, and still there were many, many people there for that, even though they said it wasn't happening. And then this year they're telling it will happen, but not for the public, not for the crowd. We shall see whether it happens or not. But anyway, let us see. But whatever happens, we understand that is the will of the Lord. And we were just discussing this morning. I have not been to the Rath Yatra in Puri, but it is on my, list of things to do before I die, if it's possible. And I see, some of my god brothers, they pay the nearby. There's some, like shops. You pay the owner, and he lets you go on the roof of his shop to watch the Rath Yatra from there. And they provide, some nice comfortable chairs, some snacks, some drinks, and you can watch it without getting crushed. Because it's in the crowd, it's like really. I mean, many people get crushed every year. Die, get trampled. But anyhow, that is a glorious thing. If you are trampled to death before Lord Jagannath's car, there can only be an auspicious outcome for that. And especially, it is the Lord's mercy on those who cannot enter the temple. We heard the other day, Srila Goswami Maharaj, he was talking about the first time when he went to Puri, and he tried to go into the temple, and the police there, they unceremoniously, physically threw him into the gutter. They took him outside and threw him into the gutter. And he was covered. We're not, as he said, we're not talking about a nice gutter like you might find in the West, but there, what the gutters are like in India, full of filth and rats and all kinds of horrible things. And and also one of my god brothers, his name's Jai Gopal, and he went there during the Rath Yatra, and he trying to see the festival. He climbed a tree, and he's crawling across the branch of the tree, but he didn't realize. But underneath him was an open sewer, underneath that tree, and the branch broke, and he fell completely into the covered in the sewer, head to toe in the. So you can understand how someone might pay for a nice, comfortable seat on one of the rooftops there. But Srila Govinda Maharaj, he used to wait until the Lord reached Gundicha, because generally they park the Rath cars, 3, outside the Gundicha temple, and that night Lord Jagannath stays on the car all night and gives darshan all night. So Gurudev would go there, maybe midnight or something. Hardly anyone there then, and you can see Lord Jagannath, happily see Lord Jagannath there.
I had a privilege, had a darshan like that, when Rath 3 chariot was standing in front of Gundicha temple. It was reached there, and it was night time, about 8:30, 9, something like that. Many people gone because chariot already reached.
Yes.
And Panda kept coming and going in and out of the temple, and bringing everything to Thakur.
Yes.
Because it was dinner time then.
Right.
Prasadam time. So he's bringing there outside on the street, and people are still bowing down on the road, bringing coconut and giving the Thakur. Panda doing their job, and it's so nice. Just to go to Jagannath Puri is a different experience out of the world.
I have also been to the Jagannath Puri.
You've been?
Yeah.
Oh, very lucky.
Yeah.
People don't realize how lucky they are.
And you went for Rath Yatra or another time?
No, not Rath Yatra. Only that time.
And I have also been a few times to Jagannath Puri, but of course we cannot go in the temple. They won't allow the white people in the temple. But Goswami Maharaj, he thought, which many devotees think, well, why we can't go in? But then the policemen in there, they go like barefoot in the temple, and they carry these big lathis, and they came out and they beat him and threw him in the sewer, in the ditch,
Maharaj might have
outside.
thought, let me just try.
Yeah, he tried. He
And
thought, I'll
maybe,
just try.
they changed their mind and
Yeah.
said, okay, go.
But he said they weren't at all nice. They weren't like, oh no, sorry, Prabhu, you can't come in. Not at all. They just like grabbed him and roughly and like threw him in the ditch. And he said, and he got up and he's like covered,
Yeah.
in sewage and everything, and he's walking and he said, oh, I don't know, this isn't going very well, I don't know what I'll do now. And just as he's going, he saw Guru Maharaj's godbrother on the rickshaw, Bhakti Daita Madhav Maharaj, coming on the rickshaw, and he'd seen him also before in Howrah station. So when he was in the Howrah station, he was getting the train, and Madhav Maharaj had gone like in the first class carriage to the, there's two main trains, Jagannath Express and the Puri Express, and anyway, one of those trains they'd gone on, but there was no reserved seating left, so Goswami Maharaj went by himself in the third class, and everyone's saying, don't go on the third class, all that way. It's a very difficult journey. But he thought, well, no other possibility. I go that way. And they also say you shouldn't go to the Jagannath Puri alone. You should go within the company of devotees.
Yeah.
But he went alone. So anyway, he first of all he meets Madhav Maharaj in the station at Howrah, and tells him he's going for the Rath Yatra. Then he sees Madhav Maharaj goes to the first class compartment. He goes to the unreserved third class compartment, and so then he doesn't see him again until he climbs out of the gutter and is walking down the road like completely covered in sewage and everything, and Madhav Maharaj going on the rickshaw, and then he stopped. Seeing him, he stopped and he said, oh, you've had some trouble, I see,
Why didn't they go together?
Well, he didn't know him. In fact, he didn't know, at that time he was in ISKCON, he didn't know Guru Maharaj even at that time.
I think nice time is to go when it's very quiet and not Rath Yatra.
Yeah, but he wants to see the Rath Yatra, so. Anyhow, then Madhav Maharaj says, he says, he said, I expressed to him, oh Maharaj, why didn't they let us in the temple? This isn't fair, and look at me, And then Madhav Maharaj said to him, Haridas Thakur never entered the temple.
Yes.
Sanatana Goswami, he never entered the temple.
Yeah.
Rupa Goswami never entered the temple. And he said, and every time he's telling it, he said, my head's going lower and lower, and I'm feeling more and more ashamed that I tried to go in. Then Madhav Maharaj, then he said, what shall I do? Then Madhav Maharaj said to him, no, you should go to the Siddha Bakul of Haridas Thakur.
Yeah.
Begin your pilgrimage there. Go to the Siddha Bakul, then go to the house of Kashi Mishra, where the Gambhira is. All these places you can go. The temple of Tota Gopinath, of Gadadhar Pandit, all these places. So these places we go when we go to Puri. And it was very beautiful. We have our mott there. And it's quite near to the, it's quite near to Tota Gopinath, and also quite near to the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur. And we would go every evening to the temple of Tota Gopinath and read Chaitanya Charitamrita there. And the devotees there were very kind and nice to us.
I used to go every day to the temple very quietly, and Rikshaman used to charge 5 rupees.
Oh.
I let them keep the change, then I rush in. I could go very close, and one day our sister-in-law came with me. I hold her hand, I want to get close. It's like a sea waves when you go in. You just see, and then she goes to the other thing. Just disappear.
Yes.
That was quiet time. So imagine Rath Yatra time. It's impossible.
Anyway, it is everything happening by the will of the Lord. So then, remember, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is Jagannath. Then if he wanted to change the system, he could have changed the system, but he didn't change the system. We had one of our god sisters also, Malini, her name was Malini, and she's from Bristol here in the UK. and it was her first. She's new, first like just joined the mission, and she went to Puri with Anuradha. Anuradha was Guru Maharaj's the wife of Guru Maharaj's secretary, and she's from Sri Lanka originally, you know, so she has like Indian body. So then she can go in the Jagannath temple. So then they're going on the rickshaw, and she tells Malini, "Oh, I'm going in to have darshan of Jagannath. You wait here." It's a little unfair, I thought, you know. "Oh, I'm going in. You wait here on the rickshaw," you know. And she's a new girl. She doesn't understand anything, you know. So she doesn't know anything. Then she went in there. Then Anuradha goes in for darshan, and then she's waiting on the rickshaw. But she's thinking, like Goswami Maharaj, she's thinking, I should be able to go in. Why shouldn't I be able to see Lord Jagannath? Then she saw a group of widows going into the temple, all with their white sari, and like, you know, they're bent over, you know, like with their face covered, and all going in, you know, stooping, going in like this. And she was also wearing a white sari. So she thought, I'll just go with them, you know. So she joined them, put her sari over her face, and she got in. She managed to get in. She got right into where they're offering the bhoga to Jagannath, and it was one of the main offerings they were offering there. And she sees Lord Jagannath. Then suddenly there was a cry went up, "Gauri, Gauri, Gauri." So, you know, means like it's a white girl, you know, white girls come in, and big commotion. And then Anuradha, as soon as she hears that cry, she realized, oh, she's come into the temple. So then those same police guards, you know, they're going with their lathis, they like converging on her, and they're going to probably throw her out, give her a beating and throw her out into the gutter also. But Anuradha, she knows the head panda, and the head panda was overseeing the offering at that time, you know. So she ran to the head panda and she grabbed hold of his feet, and she said, "Please, she's new, she doesn't know anything, please don't like punish her." So then he became compassionate, and he said, "Okay, then, but you take her, and that you must leave now." So without the beating, she left. They left there, and then the panda, he told the other priests, throw out the whole offering. It's been, you know, like they say, if the dog sees the offering before it's offered to the Lord, then it's not fit to be offered. So something like that, they're thinking, oh, the Sahib has seen the offering, then it's not fit to be offered anymore. Throw it all away, and then make a new one. Actually, that eating is one of maybe Lord Jagannath's main pastime. 56 offerings every day. They make, you know, then how can anyone eat so much? The Lord can eat so much. And Gurudev told us that the pandas, they have there's families of pandas that cook for the Lord. A whole family, that's what they do. And each one has like a shift. So at this time this family go and they cook, and this time this family go and they cook. And he said, once Gurudev was staying with one of the pandas' families, and before they were going for their service, they all had a big meal before going. And Gurudev said, "Oh, why you were eating before going to cook for the Lord? Surely you would wait until the offering and then take the prasad." And they said, no, if we eat before, then when we are cooking, we are not feeling any lust for the things that we are cooking. Then we're just cooking for the Lord. We're not cooking with any expectation that we'll enjoy this later, you know. And Gurudev said, "Oh, I thought that is a very good explanation, very good like method for that, you know." Anyhow, so Malini, she gets thrown out of the mandir, but without the beating, without being thrown into the gutter. She goes with Anuradha. And a few days later, they come back to Navadvip, and Guru Maharaj just heard the report. Then he called the he called Malini and asked her, "Oh, I heard about your adventure in Puri." And he said, "Why did you try?" She said, "Oh, I wanted to see I wanted to have darshan of Lord Jagannath." Then Guru Maharaj said, "Oh, don't you know that Haridas Thakur never went in the temple of Jagannath because he was born in Muslim family, and Rupa and Sanatan, they also didn't go because they were ministers in the Muslim government. They'd even taken Muslim names, Dabir Kash and Shakir Malik, and so they considered themselves, although they were, they're the heads of our sampradaya, in their humility they considered themselves fallen. In fact, when they would come to see Mahaprabhu, they would come to take prasadam with Mahaprabhu by his invitation every day in the house of Kashi Mishra, and from where they're staying at the Siddha Bakul with Haridas Thakur, and they would come every day. But there are two paths that you can go during the day, like midday. One is you can go where the pandas live, and the other one is on the beach front. And if you know that in the middle of the day, the beach, the sand will blister your feet. It is so hot. And where the pandas live, it's quite shaded at that time. But they're thinking, if we go that way, and maybe by accident one of the pandas might touch one of us, then they'll become impure, they'll have to bathe, so much inconvenience for them to do their service, so we'll go on the beach front. And they would go, and Sanatana Goswami, he came before Mahaprabhu with blisters on his feet, and Mahaprabhu asked why, and he explained. And Mahaprabhu, he didn't say anything. And he also, as we mentioned before, he didn't change anything. So, it is very, they are very strict. We heard even Mahatma Gandhi was refused entrance there because he went, that he would travel with his Harijans, and the Harijans were untouchables because Gandhi was against casteism and against the caste system, that he didn't admit untouchability, and Mahaprabhu also didn't admit untouchability. Otherwise, why he gave the Shraddha Patra every day to Haridas Thakur? But anyhow, so Gandhi rolls up at the Jagannath temple with his Harijans. Incidentally, Guru Maharaj said, it is not so easy to be Harijan. Harijan means, children of God, but it means Hari means Krishna and Jan means his men. So the Vaishnavas, they are Harijan. The real Vaishnavas, they are actually Harijan. But he wants to show, no, they're not untouchable. They are children of God like everyone else. But so that was his name for them. But when they came to the door, the gate of the temple, the pandas stopped him and said, Bapuji, you can come, but they cannot come. Then Gandhi told, if they will not go in, if you will not allow them in, then I will also not go in. And he left. And he went wherever he was staying in Puri that night. But we heard that in the evening time, in like a secret way, his wife went to go and have darshan of Jagannath. And then later she came back, and Gandhi was very angry. Like, where have you been? And she said, I just went, for a walk or whatever, she said. And he said, you have gone for darshan of Jagannath Dev, isn't it? And she said, yes, I did. And then he gives chastisement to her. Oh, I am your husband and I have not gone in, but you have gone in. Then what is this? And this way chastising her. But our Guru Maharaj said, but we support her because his jurisdiction over her is only temporary, only for now. But her relationship with the Lord, that is forever. Then no husband should interfere with the relationship of the wife with the Lord, or vice versa. And we should also remember that. And no, we see that sometimes devotee not coming because wife is saying, oh, you're spending so much time at the temple, why you're not here and not doing, that shelf needs fixing or this thing, and you're going to do service at the temple. No, that's actually, man and wife should assist each other in their service to the Lord, not be obstruction to that. Anyway, that was Gandhiji. And there was also, Guru Maharaj told us, there was also another devotee, and he used to wear the paduka of his Gurudev on his chest, the wooden shoes that his Guru wore on like a string, and he would keep them on his chest, and he would wear them wherever he went. And when he came to the Jagannath temple, they said, you can't come in with those shoes on your chest. And he said, oh, these are not shoes, just ordinary shoes. These are my Guru Padma's paduka, they are worshipable to me. And the Panda said, they may be worshipable to you, but they're just shoes to us, and you cannot come in with those shoes. So he couldn't go in. And also, they don't allow the mridanga in there either, because mridanga is made from leather. They don't allow it. So, very strict. But Srila Govinda Maharaj, he said, I think that will change in the future for money. For money, they will allow like non-Hindus into the temple. But we have yet to see that. But having said that, the Dibya Singh, Maharaj Dibya Singh, who is the king of Orissa, he's the direct descendant of Maharaj Prataparudra, who was the king in the time of Mahaprabhu. And you see on the Rath Yatra, he comes in the rickshaw with the broom, and he cleans the road in front of Jagannath with the broom and everything. And he is actually in charge of the temple. But he came to the opening of our mott in Puri. We have a small mott near the sea, and on the opening day, Srila Govinda Maharaj invited the king to come, and surprisingly he came. But he didn't, like when he comes to the official ceremony, he always wears like a big turban with a feather, and like very odd. He just came like a humble Vaishnava with dhoti and upavastra and kurta, and no shoe, no crown, no anything. Just came there like that, and stayed with us, with Srila Govinda Maharaj, and took part in the opening ceremony, and took prasadam with Srila Govinda Maharaj, and Maharaj said, he is very saintly man. Srila Govinda Maharaj said, he is very saintly man. If I were not the acharya of this mission, I would have taken his lotus feet on my head. And funnily, in the afternoon, he was booked to go to another function at another temple in the afternoon, but he forgot to go because he was so happy being with Govinda Maharaj that he forgot to go. And then two brahmacharis and a sannyasi from that other temple, they came like in search of him. Like, why? Where is he? Why hasn't he come to our temple? Anyhow, so in a very humble way, like a humble Vaishnava, which he is, he came to our mott on the opening day. That is a very wonderful thing.
One of the things when Goswami was giving the lesson yesterday, I was hearing that also amongst the pandas there is like different sampradayas. There's like Gaudiya Panda as well, like they follow the Gaudiya Vaishnava or something like that.
Yeah, the different pandas do different functions there, But remember, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he established many things there. When he was actually posted by the British government to oversee the management of the temple, to stamp out corruption there. And so he did that, but as well as that, he installed in the courtyard, in the temple courtyard, what was called the Bhakti Mandap. And in that, it was like a mandap, like what would you say, a tent, or marquee, like a marquee in the middle of the, and every day Vaishnavas would come and give lecture from Srimad Bhagavatam in that Bhakti Mandap, and that's still continues to this day. And generally those are Gaudiya Vaishnavas that follow that. So many things were, and other things as well that he introduced there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur introduced there. So it is very much connected with our Sampradaya, of course, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami and so on. It's very interesting also the what do you call it, that all of the farms in the nearby area, they're all tithed to the temple. So that means that that everything they produce, a percentage of that they have to give to the temple. And the land where they farm, that's owned by the temple. But it's not actually in the name of the temple. All of the land is in the name of Baladev. So their landlord is Lord Baladev, because he is older brother, so he's the proprietor. So that's very interesting. And once the first time when I went to Puri, before our temple was built, someone had given the land there, and it was very nice land, very sweet ashram. And now it was kind of not so many buildings around there. It was called Gita Ashram. And now there's like so many hotels and things have come up. But at that time it was kind of not many buildings there at all. So, and I went with some godbrothers, and we stayed there a few days. And Guru Maharaj had sent two brahmacharis to stay at that place. And their names were Sachisuna. Sachisuna is still serving in our mission in India. And the other brahmachari, his name was Mahananda, but a Risan. He was a Risan devotee, and not the Madhusudan Maharaj, not that Mahananda, but a different Mahananda. So these two devotees are there, and they're keeping the program going, everything. And Guru Maharaj gave us permission to go and stay there for a few days, maybe a week. We stayed there, and that devotee, Mahananda, he was cooking every day for us, but he cooks everything in mustard oil, everything, mustard oil and chilies to the max, Then you can take a few times, but after a few days, you're thinking I can't eat this anymore. It's just far too hot and far too oily. I'm going to become ill if I eat like this, everything cooked in the mustard oil and everything. So at lunchtime he would call us, to take prasadam, and I would say, no, I won't take anything today, Prabhu, Then he would go away, kind of unhappy, and I would go out, and I would go to Swagadwar, that's by where the hotels are, where the kind of the where the tourists go, who come to, a lot of people go to Puri because it's at the seaside, so then they've got lots of hotels and shops and, many things in Swagadwar. And there was a little marketplace there. And there was one man, he sold these big bread rolls, this size, but big bread rolls. And then opposite to him, there's another man who's selling pakoras. And then you can buy one big bag of mixed pakora for 1 rupee. And so every lunchtime I would go there and buy 2 of these bread rolls and a bag of pakora, and I'd put the pakora inside the bread roll with some Kishan tomato ketchup, and that would be my lunch. But poor Mahananda Prabhu, he's thinking, if I'm not taking prasadam in the mott, I must be fasting. So like 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. He's thinking, oh, Devashish hasn't taken prasadam for 4 days. You know, then he came and he's like asking me, please, Prabhu, take prasadam. Oh, no, I won't take today. And then he starts crying. Because he doesn't, I haven't told him, no, I'm going up the road and enjoying my pakora sandwich. And so he's thinking, oh, Devashish is fasting. And he's crying there. And he said, okay, I'm going. And he got up. He didn't speak much English, but that much he said. Okay, I'm going. And that went, and he left the temple, went out the gate of the temple. And I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? You know, some offense. I've made some offense. And then I asked Sachisuna Prabhu, like, what's happening? Wait. And he said, don't worry, everything is fine. He's coming back. So we just waited, and I'm feeling really rotten, you know, feeling really bad. And then maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, he comes back, and he's got a trolley with Jagannath Prasad from the Jagannath Mandir, like in the big clay pots and everything. And he said, today you take Jagannath Prasad. Okay. Then I sit down and I asked him, like, how did you get this? You know, it's like just from the offering. How did you get this? He said, Guru Maharaj's godbrother, he has a mott in Puri. His name is Shanta Maharaj. And he's very famous sadhu in Puri, you know. And he said, so I went there, because he's like red cloth brahmachari. He said, I went there and I told the panda, Shanta Maharaj wants Jagannath Prasad. So then they just made this big trolley full of Jagannath Prasad and gave it to me, like, you know, yeah, for Shanta Maharaj. So he brought this prasadam back and a big feast. So we all had this big feast of Jagannath Prasadam. And I asked him, is it same prasadam for Jagannath and Baladev? He says, no. This one is Jagannath, this one is Baladev, this one Jagannath. And all the prasadam that was offered to Jagannath, very simple, you know, plain rice, some very simple vegetable, and that which was offered to Baladev, really opulent, like super opulent. And I said, how come? And he said, oh, because, you know, Krishna, he says, you know, patram pushvam, you know, what if you just offer me a leaf, a fruit, a flower, water, I'll accept. But Baladev, if you don't offer him like the best of everything, then he'll become very angry with you. So they're offering a very special, and seriously, that prasadam is wonderful, really wonderful. You know, they have that famous like sweet dal that they offer to Lord Jagannath. That's really beautiful, and so many different preparations, all kinds of like breads and cakes, and they don't offer anything that isn't indigenous to India. That like anything that was bought there. So no chili, because chili isn't originally from India. Chili is from you know, Mexico or wherever. It came on the spice routes, and no potato, no aubergine, no tomato. All of these things were bought by the British. Many of these things, they're not indigenous to India, but still, like, wonderful preparations. You can't imagine how wonderful they are. So it turned out okay in the end, you know, that sneaking off for pakoras at lunchtime ended in getting Lord Jagannath Prasadam. So that was a wonderful thing. No, he's from Vrindavan. From Govardhan, actually, from Govardhan. Anyway.
You can buy prasad nowadays. I mean,
yeah, you can buy.
What you do donation, they give you prasad.
Yeah. But there are also many vendors in Puri that say that it's Jagannath Prasadam, and it's not. I mean, it may be offered to Lord Jagannath, but not in the temple. They make a business of that, you know, and sell. And sometimes they put in chili and, you know, aubergine and things. Then you know it's not the genuine thing.
Because when we went, Purnanand Prabhu's friend,
Other way.
He is a panda.
Yeah.
And he used to come every day. And then he said, if you give some donation,
Yeah.
bring prasad.
Yes.
And no, he brought quite a lot, khichdi and lots of prasad.
Yeah. And we, and in the evening we would go to the Tota Gopinath Mandir, Gadadhar Pandit's home, and read Chaitanya Charitamrita every night. At that time, you know that what they do is those places, they have one like organization or temple. They manage that for a period of time, maybe 10 years or something, and then when that's up, then another mott or someone will come and manage it for so long. Anyway, at that time in the temple of Tota Gopinath, the man in charge there, his name was Hari Krishna Das, and he is very nice and very favorable to us, like, you know, very kind to us. So every evening we would come, and also when we were there, it was Kartik time, and during Kartik time, you know, right, of course, Tota Gopinath, Tota means sitting. So originally he was just called Gopinath, and also then there's Radha and Lalita, either side. So then now if you go there, Radha and Lalita standing, but Gopinath sitting, and with cross-legged like this. So because when Gadadhar Pandit became very old, he couldn't reach to offer the garland to Gopinath. And he's praying, oh, I cannot do my service. You please be merciful to me. So then one morning, when he came to do the puja, he found Gopinath is sitting instead of standing, so that he can give the garland. And that, to this day, he's sitting. But in an extraordinary way, during Kartik, sometimes he doesn't sit cross-legged. Sometimes he sits with his feet down, you know, like with his knees straight and sitting down like that. So he was showing that while we were there. And normally they don't allow anyone to take photographs there. But Hari Krishna Das, for some reason, he liked me and he allowed me to take photographs. So that darshan we had of Tota Gopinath showing his lotus feet. And also they're very keen to show you his knee. On his knee there's a gold patch on his knee, and they say that when Mahaprabhu Chaitanya Dev, when he left the world, he came in the Tota Gopinath temple and merged into Tota Gopinath, and that is the place, you know, like where he entered into Tota Gopinath, that gold on the knee. Of course, there is no definitive history of how Chaitanya Dev disappeared. Some say that he ran onto the altar of Jagannath Dev, embraced Jagannath Dev, disappeared. Some say that he was seen walking into the east and disappeared. Some say that he went into the ocean, disappeared. And many different, and that explanation, some say that he went into Gopinath in the house of Gadadhar Pandit. Guru Maharaj said, all may be simultaneously true. That it is possible that according to the devotee who saw, then he may have showed a different pastime to them. But we like the idea that he merged into the deity of Gopinath, because it is Gadadhar Pandit is Radharani, the manifestation of Radharani in Gaura Leela. So we like that idea, that he ended his pastimes there, particularly, or Guru Maharaj like that particularly. But also we met this, you know, like in Jagannath Temple, they have the Devadasis, they're dancing girls, and they dance for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. And Ramananda Roy, he was their teacher in the time of Mahaprabhu. He taught the Devadasis how to dance for the pleasure of Lord Jagannath. But they also have wrestlers that wrestle in front of Jagannath at certain time. And we met one just near the temple of Tota Gopinath. There's a little temple of Hanuman. on up. You go up these steps, and a small temple of Hanuman there. So we met this man there, and he was very keen to talk to us, you know. And he was asking what do we do, and I asked him, what do you do? And he said, I am wrestler for Jagannath. That was his profession, you know. And he was like very big, strong man. And I said, oh, so you are a devotee of Lord Jagannath? And he said, no, that's just my job. He said, my religion is sex. So okay, nice to meet you. But anyway, and one devotee, my godbrother, he took us to meet this artist. His name was, I don't even know, I presume he's still alive, but his name is Narayan Harishchandran. Narayan Das Harishchandran. And at that time he was Mr. Orissa, you know, like a bodybuilder. Mr. Orissa, like Charles Atlas or Arnold Schwarzenegger, you know. But he was a really good artist in the traditional Aryan style. And we went to meet him. And when Jagannath goes to the Gundicha, they worship a picture, in the Jagannath Mandir, they worship a picture of Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, and he's the artist that paints that picture, or was at that time. As I say, this was, 30 years ago, so if he's still living, I don't know. He was quite a young man then, so no reason to think that he isn't. But anyway, I asked him, please, you can show us some pictures, some of your paintings. And he got out these paintings, and I know, right? I can understand, because his paintings are like in the Sydney Opera House and many, like all over the world. He's very famous. And I said, I want to see the real ones. These are just the ones you get out for the tourists, aren't they? And yeah, he said, yes, they are, yeah. And he took me into his studio and he showed these paintings. Fantastic, beautiful. Like there was one in of Krishna dancing on the hoods of Kaliya, and then around is the Das avatar all around that painting. But in that, the Orissan style. It was really lovely. And then another painting, a big painting, like would cover that, and it's Krishna and Balaram leaving Vrindavan with Akrura on the chariot, and the cowherd girls trying to stop Akrura from taking him. It was amazing, really amazing. And many paintings. And he had a painting of Mahaprabhu dancing with the body of Haridas Thakur after Haridas. So nice. Somewhere I still have his address. It was my idea. I had an idea at Guru Maharaj's Premadama Devastotram that we would make a book, like a coffee table book, with the paintings. I wanted to commission him to make the paintings illustrating those verses of Guru Maharaj. We never got around to. I mean, I didn't have any money, so it wasn't anything I could do. But still, I would like to do sometime. Anyway, and he's like his artwork was beautiful, but he looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Anyway, those are some of my remembrances of Puri. A few times I've been, and one time I went after our mott was built and open and everything, and I was really sick, very ill. I thought I was going to die there, but I didn't die. So, and we have Nitai Chaitanya Dev, the deities of our mott there, installed by Srila Govinda Maharaj, and we have a guest house. Also a guest house there. It's very nice.
Also Prabhupada's ashram there. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's ashram nearby, near Tata Gopinath.
Yes.
Our ashram.
Yes, many places there. The Gambhira, of course, is there. And Haridas Thakur Samadhi, Haridas is Siddha Bakul.
Yeah.
all those places.
That's also called Chatak Parvat.
Yeah, because he can see from there. He could see the
And that is why all sand.
chakra.
I think there is so much sand there.
Yeah,
Near Tota Gopinath Mandir.
yeah.
There is a Chappan Bhog Chaktis. Chaktis Bhajan, Chappan Bhog Chaktis Bhog.
Yeah.
56 offering, 36 what I.
This is
If you
Mahaprabhu's.
divide 24 over by 56,
Yes.
we got 5-10 minutes.
There's so many, maybe 12, I think 12 main offerings and then other offerings in between the main offerings. Just to keep him topped up. Anyway, yeah, that's his. And you know, Ramanujacharya went there.
Yes.
Ramanuja was, he's actually the avatar of the Nantashesh, Ramanuja. But he was tasked by the Lord. One of his tasks was to establish the proper method of Archan Puja in all the temples of Krishna around India. And he's recognized at that time. He was the acharya of the Sri Sampradaya, so everybody recognizes his place. So then he came to Jagannath Mandir, and he wants to institute the method of worship there to establish that. But in Puri they have their own way of worshipping Jagannath there. Then they gave honor to him in the mandir, and they gave him a big room, befitting his status, and with a big 4-poster bed in the bedroom where he was. And then he took rest that night. His idea was the next day he will begin reforming the Archan Seva there. So then in the night, Lord Jagannath appeared to him in his dream and told him, "We don't want your Vidimarga here. This is not the place of Vidimarga." And then when he woke up, he was in the same bed, but 300 miles away from Puri. So this way, he was cast out by Jagannath out of Puri, Ramanuja. And another time, Guru Maharaj told us another devotee, famous devotee, his name was Madhav Das. And he said he was in the came to see Lord Jagannath, darshan of Lord Jagannath, and where he was staying near the temple. In the middle of the night, someone come in his room, and it was Lord Jagannath. Came in his room and he said, "Come on, we're going for some fun." And can you imagine, Madhav? He said, "Okay, let's go." And then they went to the house of the head panda, and in the tree, papaya tree, I think it's papaya tree, growing in the garden, Panda's garden. And so Jagannath said, "Okay," and he climbed up the tree and he starts stealing the fruits from the tree and throwing them to Madhav. And Jagannath throws his cloth, and he said, "You keep them in the cloth, keep the fruits in the cloth." And then he's making so much noise when he's stealing the fruits that the panda wakes up and sees, some people outside stealing from my tree. So he calls the police. The police come, and when the police are coming, then Jagannath says, "We have to make a run for it." And Jagannath leaps over him and gone, and he's left there with Jagannath's cloth full of fruits, from the tree. Then he's arrested and taken to the jail, and it was night time. So the next morning he's going to go before the judge, and they give some whipping to him, in the jail. And the next in the early hours of the morning, Jagannath appears in the dream of the panda and tells him, when you come to wake me this morning, I have to bring some lotion to put on my back because last night the police, they gave a whipping to my devotee, and I've taken that whipping on my back. So you need to give some like ointment on my back. Then the next day, he goes before the judge, and he's gonna like say, how are you gonna plead? And the judge, and he said, no, I was with judge. And he said, you're so shameless. You're trying to blame Krishna for your crime, and also you've stolen his cloth, and you're stolen the fruits from and the rest of the time you're posing as some kind of sadhu. And the judge is getting very angry, and then just at that time the panda comes and says, no, everything he says is true. Jagannath told me that he went to steal fruit with him in the night. So, although it is considered to be Dwarka, Jagannath Puri is considered to be Dwarka, but we see that sometimes Jagannath is not behaving like Dwarka Krishna. He's behaving more like Vrindavan Krishna. All right. Anyway, we'll stop our talk for today. I'm very happy to remember these things. And as Jagannath Ratha Yatra approaches, and now we'll stop for today. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Rakak Shrita Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bhargya Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Brinda Ki Jai. Kol Kartel Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi.